So, is immigration needed if British people won't do tough jobs? Cara?
This country has been built on the contribution of immigrants over decades, and we should be grateful for that. Just look around this country. We are phenomenal. We're an open country. We're an open economy. And now immigrants in every area are reaching the top. There used to be a glass ceiling. When I came from India as a 19-year-old, I was told you will never get to the top because you won't be allowed to get to the top because as a foreigner there will be a glass ceiling. That glass ceiling has been shattered. This is a country where anyone can get as high as they want to regardless of race, religion or background. And the individual that on the film there, he's come all the way from Romania. I was on the national...
And he's here?
And there we are. And in the National Employment Panel, I remember I was for 8 years on the National Employment Panel. I went on a field visit to East London. There were job vacancies in West London, but people were not willing to travel from East London to West London. And here's somebody who's come all the way across Europe and is willing to work hard and pay the taxes and contribute to our economy. Where we go wrong is illegal immigration, and that's where this government has lost control completely. If I ask the government now, give me, rounded to the closest 100,000, how many illegal immigrants there are in this country, they won't have a clue. Is it 1 million? Is it 1.5 million? Is it 500,000? They don't know. Because we don't know who's in this country. We don't have exit checks. We should be bringing in exit checks. We check passports when people come into the country. We do not check passports when they go out. The technology is there. There'll be a queue of IT companies. We'll then know who's left and who's here who shouldn't be here. But to tar everyone with the same brush is wrong. Immigrants have benefited this country.
What kind of people do you employ, Cara?
We have what I call a mini United Nations, people from just about every nationality, and that diversity is enriching. It makes us that much more competitive, and I'm proud of it.
And do you find that your British workers don't work as hard, or...?
No, it's not that at all. Everyone, if you provide the right environment, people will work. And as I said, if somebody's willing to travel all the way across Europe and come here, foreign language, different environment, and they're willing to work, they're willing to contribute, we should be grateful for that.
So, Suzanne, Karen's talking about enriching his workforce. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. There's not much that I disagree with what Lord Millemoria says, because immigrants, as he says, have rightly enriched this country. I mean, this country would not be the great country it is without the Windrush generation coming in after 2 world wars when this country was, battered and bruised, and we really needed that supply of labour. And that's fantastic. And all credit to you. What a brave entrepreneurial thing to do, to come over here. And I don't criticise you at all for what you've done. The problem is, where I do disagree with Karen, is it's not just illegal immigration, because immigration now really is massive. When the Labour government came to power in 1997, net immigration, so the numbers of people that were leaving as opposed to the people coming in, was running at 48,000 a year. It's now 212,000 a year. And that's a huge toll on housing, on schooling, on welfare, on benefits, not just out-of-work benefits, but in-work benefits as well, and child benefit and all sorts of things. And the country can't cope. I think there's about 680 of us now to every square mile, and we're getting a bit full. And for UKIP, it's not an issue about race. Absolutely everybody of any colour, any religion must be able to get to that top of the tree, and nobody could argue with that. But it's about space. We're getting short of space and we're running out of room.
OK, are we short of space, Owen?
Only 7% of Britain is built on, so let's just knock that one out the park completely. Look,
so you like to see green space?
What I am fed up with is a constant attempt to redirect people's entirely justifiable anger at the situation this country's in, away from those at the top with power to people's neighbours down the street. So let me explain.
You're very angry about them too, Owen.
This country is in a real mess. But it wasn't plunged into this mess by Polish fruit pickers. It wasn't plunged into this mess by Nigerian nurses like the ones who tended and looked after my dying grandmother and look after my granddad, I'm sure who many of you rely on as well. It wasn't plunged into this mess by Indian cleaners. It was plunged into this mess by a financial elite which is still getting away with it after being bailed out by the tax dodgers at the top who hoard £25 billion from the taxpayer each year whilst cuts to essential services are coming through. The poverty-paying bosses who leave most people in poverty in this country in work. And just quickly on that, come to Knowsley in Liverpool, OK? It's got one of the highest rates of youth unemployment in the country. One of the highest rates of child poverty as well. Do you know what the immigration level is there? It's 2%. You can go as well, you go to Hartlepool, highest youth unemployment rate in Teesside. Do you know what the immigration rate in there is there? 2.1%. It's not immigration that's made governments not build council housing, causing a council housing crisis. Okay. So let's blame those with power.
The other side of this question, I don't think has really been addressed, which is why English people are not prepared to do the tough jobs. And this actually makes me really angry when people keep on bringing this up, because there's a very simple reason why immigrants work and why English people, we are told, won't work. And that is the same thing, money. Yeah. I mean, when an immigrant works, if they're from Romania or from, they are getting, what they get in England is 6 times the minimum wage in Romania, 4 times the minimum wage in Poland. With the money, I mean, I know a Polish builder, he was able to go back, build a 4-bedroom house, send his child to the equivalent of Polish private school. Now, a young black Caribbean boy who's on job seekers allowance, he said to me, if I, on the minimum wage, could ever afford to buy a 4-bedroom house, send my child to private school, I too would be working all the hours it takes. But he's not going to be able to do that. And I actually befriended this particular South London gang and went with one young boy who got a job to see what happened to him. And he got a job on the minimum wage. And at the end of the first week, with great excitement, we looked at his payslip. So he was earning £6.50 an hour. Now, how much money do you think he kept after everything had been deducted? He kept £1.
Oh, that's dreadful.
So English people simply cannot afford to work.
OK, we're going to talk a bit more about benefits later on. I want to bring the audience in. Yeah, gentleman up here has been very patient.
Hello. To address what the panel has been suggesting, immigration in regards to the tough job has seemed to be almost like a veil. This is pulled over our eyes because the wage gap in this country for a very highly developed liberal democracy is almost ridiculous. We have one of the highest wage gaps in relation to how successful our economy is as well. And because of the idea of tough jobs, if there was an increase in minimum wage and if the sort of stigmatisation was reduced in relation to these jobs, then the sort of British people and immigrants can feel more of a freedom to work because of this sort of ridiculous sort of marginalising of particular tough jobs.
You feel that the stigma is a problem. OK. Yes, lady here at the top.
Just to add to Owen's point, really, I just wanted to highlight the fact that we don't blame big business for migration, but big business employ migrant workers from Poland, from Romania, from Bulgaria. Then they take a percentage of their wage out for accommodation, which is a percentage that is too high to legally be allowed, which leaves migrant workers with under the minimum wage. They're working for less than the minimum wage, and everybody says it's the migrants' fault.
It's such a good point. There was a business which was shut down in Kent in 2012, a chicken gathering business, and it had these mainly Lithuanian workers, and they were forced into a home infested by rats in overcrowded accommodation with that money deducted from their wage. So if we're going to deal with undercutting, let's increase the minimum wage to a living wage. Let's enforce the minimum wage, because often it isn't even enforced. But also, in this, take this area, it wasn't immigrants who shut down Pfizer's factory, which led to 2,000 jobs going. It wasn't immigrants who collapsed the dock. It wasn't immigrants who bought the local airport for £1 and then shut it down, losing dozens of jobs. There was a real problem with a lack of skilled jobs, and we need
I think it's a very good point about the living wage. And why a lot of companies don't give the living wage. Well, take Next, for example. Next makes huge profits.
Obviously, no one here from Next to defend themselves,
yes, so all right, Next made. But when asked why they wouldn't give their workers the living wage, they said, well, we have 30 people applying for every job. So why do we need to do that? So if the companies know that they can get people from the EU very easily. They're not going to give people the living wage. There's no point to it.
Karen, do you pay a living wage?
We've also got to talk about all the other aspects of immigration. What about higher education? What about the foreign students that bring in £13 billion to our economy and enrich our universities? What about academics? Many of our universities have 30% of the academics are foreign. That's what makes our universities, along with the United States, the best in the world.
Do you pay a living wage?
Do you pay a living wage?
In many cases, we pay way above the living wage.
But if you don't pay a living wage for all your workers, the taxpayer has to step in. They're subsidising poverty wages with tax credits, and that's another reason why we need a living wage. Stop undercutting, but also reduce the amount the public is spending on
what's happening online, Tina?
Interesting comments coming in online. A response to Owen, first of all. Only 7% of the country is built on, so we should destroy the British countryside, should we? This one has come from...
No way.
Hang on. I agree with UKIP's policies on immigration, but it's all they seem to focus on.
And it is what we're talking about.
Well, this is true. A lot of people sort of representing this sort of view. The reality is there's massive job snobbery in this country. The problem is that British people have a high self-worth and believe it's below them. The jobs are there, just British people don't want them. That actually reflects a lot of the comments that are coming in. A question for you. If last year there were 250,000 more people that came to the UK than left, but unemployment's fallen, how do you explain that?
Well, I think a lot of the unemployment figures are hidden. We've got a lot of people now working on 0 hours contracts, which is an abomination in my view. I think, you know, they are absolutely wrong. I also want to take issue with this idea that young people don't want to work and that British people don't want to work. It's simply not true. You know, I know people, young people, who are looking and trying desperately hard and they can't find anything. The other thing, Owen, is the minimum wage has actually become the maximum wage because there is so much pressure on there. It has, and very often companies don't pay any more than the minimum wage because there's been that huge pressure. We've got 1 million youth unemployed. Now, it's all very well you to talk about 2% immigration here and 2% immigration there, but we've also had 1 million young youth coming in from outside. Now, I don't think those two figures are coincidence.
But often, I mean,
London
London has some of the highest levels of immigration, and no, actually, UKIP do worst where there's high levels of immigration, like London, like Liverpool, because people know what you're saying to do. But I'm just on that. Look, the question you've set is really out of order. You're a lovely bloke, you didn't set the question, but it is out of order because the question, what it's asking us to say is either young people are feckless and lazy or immigrants are coming in and taking our jobs. Neither are true. The reality is young people are desperate for work. If you're unemployed at a young age, you're likely to be unemployed in later life, to have low wages. It's a national scourge. And I meet young people who send CV after CV and don't even get a response. And that's why to get jobs, one idea, have a housing programme, create skilled jobs, deal with the housing crisis, create the renewable energy jobs of the future. That's what Germany have done, taking on the environmental and the jobs crisis as well. Insulate all homes and businesses, which will be good for fuel poverty and the environment. Lots of things we can do to create jobs we're not doing, skilled jobs for young people.
Do you know these jobs won't go to immigrants?
Hang on a moment. I just want to talk to Victor, actually. Victor, you've said that you think that British people don't want to do these tough jobs.
Yes.
What sort of tough jobs do you mean?
I have one question. Who believe he give us a job? Romanian people, Bulgarian people, Polish people? No, English guy give this job, yeah? And give us the tough job in the site.
Do they pay you
the ground
properly?
worker?
Do they pay you properly?
Yes, but
The
you don't
minimum
see
wage, at
any
least?
English young guy with a hammer in hand and with pick hammer to smash the concrete, yeah?
Okay.
But if you want to see every morning on the tube, the young people, it's dressed on the street and on the suit. Oh my God. And he go on the office, yeah? This he want to go. To have a good job on the office because it's better paid, yeah?
Well, I think there are a lot of people. I mean, when I was your age, I worked as a waitress, I worked in a bar, I worked in a market. You know, I mean, they weren't, you know, hard labour, tough jobs, I admit, but they were jobs that were long hours, on my feet all the time, and I would do anything, and I was really grateful for that work. But I know other young people who can't even get those kind of jobs that were easy for me. So things have definitely changed, and it's not changed for the better.
I don't believe it's easy to have a job and to pull up every day a glass with 200 kilo.
No, I couldn't do it. But there you are, I'm a weak.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear from this lady here, please.
I just wanted to say that EU migrants, you saying that you were on your feet all day working hard, but were you working 16 hours a day, 7
Sometimes.
days a week? for low pay on a very hard job, and these poor people are getting exploited because of that.
What Aaron was saying, yeah, gentleman here.
I'd like to ask the lady on my right, as a representative of UKIP, how can you feign outrage at 0 hours contracts, at youth unemployment and at low wages when UKIP are proponents of the sort of laissez-faire capitalism which is beyond even George Osborne's wildest dreams and which would make all of that and look at it as a benefit?
Just on that, one of your spokespeople called for the abolition of paid maternity leave, for paid... Well, they did they or not?
No, who?
That's
Who?
one of your key spokespeople.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they did.
We're not opposed to any of that. No. Can I answer the question?
They want to privatise the NHS.
Okay, let's let Suzanne answer the question.
No, I don't know where you've got your idea that we're just for a free-for-all capitalist market. We're not. We are about ethical and responsible capitalism as well. And that is why, don't laugh, that is why we would take everybody on minimum wage out of tax altogether. Because I totally recognise what Harriet said earlier. If you're on the minimum wage, if that's been deemed by somebody somewhere to be the minimum you need to live on, why the heck should you pay tax on it? It's completely wrong. And we would stop that.
One single policy shouldn't be able to distract from a far wider view of public spending cuts and privatisation, which would be a far greater detriment than any amount of...
What public sector spending cuts we're going to do?
Your deputy leader called for the privatisation of the entire National Health Service.
So did various Labour peers. What was going on?
Your deputy leader, he's now deleted the blog post from his website.
Well, there you go. It's not policy.
Oh, come on.
It is not policy to...
You want to cut taxes on the rich?
Policy.
OK, you two. Yes, lady here.
NHS free at the point of contact, always.
Okay, I think the kind of job you find depends not only on your education and skills, but also on your attitude. I came more than a month ago from Poland with my husband, and I found a job on another day, to tell you the truth. He works really hard, but I work in the office, and it's not like when you come and you want to speak the language of the country, you want to work for a country's economy, and you have dedicated attitude, I think there will be no complaining, actually, for both sides.
You know, this is such an important point. There's a mantra that we have, that we hire for will rather than skill.
Yeah.
And the skill's important, but it's the will, it's the attitude. I mean, how many of you here eat Indian food and curry regularly? Just about everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what? This government's mad cap, immigration cap, we can't get the chefs to come and work in the curry restaurants, Indian restaurants, 2/3 owned by Bangladeshis. We all love the food, and we can't because of this ridiculous immigration policy that this government has.
This goes to the heart of the matter. It goes to the heart of the matter. Because at the moment, if you're a member of one of the other 27 EU states, you can come in, whether or not you've got the skills, whether or not we need the skills. If you're an appropriately qualified doctor, chef, whatever it might be, from India, from Africa, then you can't get in anymore. And all UKIP wants is a level playing field, a points-based system, so we fill the skills back. So, as I say, an appropriately qualified scientist from India has as much right to come here as one from Spain. And there is nothing unfair in that, surely.
And surely...
Have you fired up the power bar, Tina?
Yeah, I know, your favourite bit of the show.
Yeah.
Some of you might have seen that we've been running this question at the bottom of our screen. Is immigration needed if Brits will not do tough jobs? This, of course, is our low-tech power bar. It's not a scientific poll, of course, but lets us know what Twitter's saying. You can use the hashtag #FreeSpeechYes or hashtag #FreeSpeechNo to give your view. As you can see, 72%, so the majority of people engaging with us online at home, say yes to that question. A comment that's come in from Alanis in response to some of the comments we were getting before. Companies don't even get back to us for jobs. We are not lazy.
Okay. Another couple of quick comments from the audience. Yeah, gentleman here.
Well, I don't really think... I think the problem is the education system, because we are pushed into universities and not into apprenticeships, which will help us to make skills and stuff like that. Like Germany, have this social ethic where it doesn't matter what job you do, if you've got a skill, you're good. Do you know what I mean? It's not about people being lazy, it's about the education system, and we need to change that as a country.
Sure. Yeah, gentleman here. Yeah, you. Go on.
Talking about Suzanne's point about saying people coming into the UK, what about the benefits that this freedom of work have to British people, British young people myself, who are looking at working in Europe. Surely then, for us to have those benefits, you know, whether you see it as a negative, whether you see it as a positive, we've got to accept it as a point of having the freedom of movement for our benefit and for my benefit as somebody coming out of university.
To go abroad, that's fine, but do you think if you want to go abroad, you want to go to a job, you want to know that you're contributing to that economy, right? Or am I wrong? Would you just like to go there anyway and not perhaps add anything? Would you learn to speak the language, for instance, if it was a non-English speaking country? That again I think is something very important, and the lady over there picked that up too.
I thought the point over there was really important, because in Germany they didn't let their industries go to waste like we did, and that's why they have apprenticeships to back them up. They've invested in renewable energy jobs. They've created hundreds of thousands of renewable energy jobs. They're good, skilled jobs with apprenticeships.
Yes, but
well, we're encouraging apprenticeship at the moment. We've got university technical colleges, we've got studio schools that are starting. Well, and our manufacturing base, by the way, this is a great manufacturing country. We have some of the best manufacturing in the world.
I was interviewing, when I was doing this report on why black Caribbean and white working class boys are just not succeeding, I mean, I was been talking to men in their 40s and 50s who remembered great apprenticeship schemes. Yeah. Why don't we have them anymore? Yes, because we don't have manufacturing. But the main point is...
Not anywhere like
we don't or we do. But the main point why we don't have them is because companies don't need to have them, because they have very good apprenticeship schemes in Eastern Europe. And you don't... Why bother to set up an apprenticeship scheme when you've got people coming over already trained?